everyone, this is Grandpa Ron. I hope everybody's well and happy today. Everything here is going good. I'm looking out my window and we've got several inches of new snow, which I had to snow blow this morning, which was a real thrill. You know, when we first moved to Montana to be close to the grandkids, the snow was an adventure. But now, after 15 years, it's kind of a chore, but it's still beautiful and we enjoy it. I was going to talk a little bit today about a management style that I was employing before I knew it was a management style. You can go online today and find a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of references to MBWA, management by walking around. Some people call it management by wandering around, or managing by wandering around. But I was doing that before I read any of Tom Peters' books or Drucker or any of the management people. And not only do I consider it successful, but I really enjoyed it, and it was good for me. But when you go to these websites about MBWA and total quality management and some of these other management buzz phrases, what you'll usually find is somebody talking with a PowerPoint presentation, going through all these intricate steps on how to employ these different methods. And I don't know about you, but I suffer from PowerPoint toxicity. PowerPoint's a good tool, but it shouldn't replace everything else. So today I just want to talk briefly about my experience with management by wandering around, and give you my feeling on the single most important thing to actually make it effective and work. I was managing a training facility. We had a lot of buildings, 100 classrooms, over 100 offices. We had 720 beds. It was a long training program. 19 weeks. We had an average of over 600 students at a time there for 19 weeks. That's a long time. Sometimes we had over 700. We had several hundred contract personnel that provided everything from security to housekeeping to maintenance to transportation, food service, and then we also had over 100 of our own agency staff. So there's a lot of people involved, and what I found was things kind of get compartmentalized, and one compartment doesn't necessarily always talk with the other department, and when they do, sometimes it's not seriously adversarial, but sometimes there's a little headbutting there, and so I'd like to get out of the office and go meet the worker bees, wander around. But it wasn't to just dig into problems and find fault and find deficiencies and things like that, like a contract compliance officer might be doing. But it was to show a real interest, and I had a real interest in the people doing the work. For example, the housekeepers. We had a lot of housekeepers, and they kept quite busy with 700 students. I mean, that's a lot of work. And I wanted to know how they were doing. Did they have the tools they needed? Was everything going okay with them? And so I would talk to the housekeepers. Now, one thing you have to be careful of is you don't want to interrupt people and keep them from doing their job. That can be a real nuisance, and you can become a real pest in doing that. But but brief visits. But I would go beyond just, hi, how's it going, but actually, chat with them. I remember one specific issue that came up in one of the chats. I mentioned to a couple of the housekeepers that we were considering buying some new dormitory furniture, and told them what we had in mind, and they didn't look real happy with that. They didn't complain, but I said, you seem to have some reservations about that. And they said, well, from a housekeeping standpoint, that's going to be a real nightmare for us. It's going to be very difficult to clean the type of furniture and get around the type of furniture that you're thinking about. And they actually had some really good suggestions on the type of furniture to get that would still be comfortable. The students would enjoy it, but it would be much easier to maintain. And so I went back to our management team and shared that with them, and suggested that they, chat with the housekeepers to get more details about this. So that's one benefit of it, several right there. Number one, the housekeepers felt engaged and could actually talk to somebody at the top without going through this long bureaucratic chain through their contractor. Their contractor had their own supervisory chain of command, and then have it bumped over to us and then go up through our chain of command. They felt like they were engaged in the process. I hope they saw that I really cared for them and was interested in what they were doing. And it also gave an example to some of the management team that they need to be going out and talking to the right people and getting the input from the right folks when issues like purchasing furniture, things like that, came up. And not just physical things like that, but when policies are generated, they needed to get out from behind the desk and talk to the people who are going to be affected by a policy or a procedure. So that was a real benefit. So it contributed to the quality of furniture. It improved the quality of performance of the staff because they were happier, the housekeeping staff. It improved the quality of the management team, because they learned a new technique for getting out and obtaining input. So there's several benefits from managing by wandering around. One of the things I noticed, though, is after a while, I don't know if this is good or not, but I would take a clipboard and a pen. I have not the greatest memory, so I would jot down things as I walked around. You have to be careful, because that can be intimidating to somebody if they think you're writing down everything they're saying. But if you do it in the right way, I think you can avoid that. But without getting into contract law and all that kind of thing, the contractor staff, the manager for the contract, noticed that I was going around and talking to his folks. He never complained or said don't do it or anything like that, but I don't know if you've ever heard the story about the cat that was giving the mice so many problems. So the mice devised a plan to hang a bell around the cat's neck while he was sleeping, so that from then on they'd always know where the cat was and could escape if he came close. Well, the contract manager kind of did the same thing. He put the staff on alert that if they saw me leave my office with a clipboard to call, and he would actually send somebody over to walk around with me. And that was okay. That was all right, because it helped them get additional input too. But I always thought that was kind of amusing. I felt like the cat that had been belled, But I'm kind of looking at notes here, but I just had cataract surgery the last couple of weeks, and I still need reading glasses, but I can see far off really good. Yeah, so I found it to be a really good way to keep my finger on the pulse of what was going on. But to reiterate the cautions, don't give the appearance of spying and just going around finding fault and interrupting and being a nuisance. You need to, and this is the key thing that I mentioned at the beginning, is you really have to have a sincere interest in the people and what they're doing. If you don't, they're gonna know that it's just you're going through the steps. You know, you're following the steps of something you read in a book or whatever. So be sincere, and you'll learn a lot about what folks are doing, about how they do their work. You'll meet some great people. You'll get some terrific input. And in return, I think you'll reap a harvest of loyalty and interest from the people that are out there doing the work. And it sure worked for me, and I know it'll work for you if you take it seriously from the standpoint of really having an interest in the people that are working for you. Now, in my case, our operation was a governmental operation, but I know this would work in the private sector as well. Of course, the private sector is concerned with the bottom line, and the things that I've just talked about are going to help you discover things that are more efficient, more cost-effective, and even if not more cost-effective, more cost-efficient, where you may not reduce costs, but you're going to get better value for your dollar and the investment that you do make. I know in the military, my dad was in a similar situation when I was younger. He was a command sergeant major in the Army. He was had started out as a medic and stayed in the medical service corps his whole career. But when the commanding officer of his unit would travel around to do inspections of different facilities, while the commanding officer was meeting with the officer staff, my dad would be meeting with the worker bees, the NCOs, and he would be asking them about the very same policies and procedures that his commander was discussing with the officers. Did you know about this policy? Did you know about this procedure? How's it been working out? And then what he found out was in many, many instances, the policies and procedures had not worked their way down to the lower levels. And people were frustrated, and that frustration could have been avoided by the new policies and procedures. So in his case, that was a very structured situation, a command situation where he was actually, kind of digging for problems and issues. And it doesn't have to be that way with management by wandering around. You'll encounter a lot of things. You'll notice a lot of things that need improvement. You can jot those down. But the people you meet with and talk with, they need to realize that you are really concerned about not just the bottom line, not just the operation, but you're concerned with and interested in them as people. And I think you'll get a much better response when you have a sincere effort like that. If not sincere, you might consider just staying in the office. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope you don't miss the PowerPoint slides and all that. But it's been nice chatting, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.